about patients first and foremost. We're actually going to put them first. We've all heard the stories, and you heard some more today. Patients who follow the rules, they pay their premiums, and then through no fault of their own, following some sort of emergency situation or surgery, receive a 6-digit bill in the mail weeks later, which they have no way of paying. It is not fair, it should not happen, and we're going to put a stop to it one way or the other. We must protect patients from these bills, and we want to get it right. Since we released this draft last month, Chairman Pallone and I have received more than 60 comment letters on this draft from stakeholders across the healthcare industry. That feedback is critical as we work to take the patient out of these surprise billing scenarios without raising overall healthcare costs. I'd also like to thank all of our witnesses for being here today, many of whom have provided helpful feedback on this legislation. And I'd particularly like to thank Ms. Wilkes. Unfortunately, you've had to become an expert on this topic the hard way by living through it with your children. As a parent, I share your frustration and your desire to fix surprise billing once and for all. Unfortunately, as you know, your experience is not unique, and I recently spoke with a doctor whose daughter's case has become pretty well known. The president had her down at the White House. She had been in the hospital, and on the way out, her provider suggested she take a simple drug test. Little did she know that that test then was sent to an out-of-network lab, and she soon received a bill for $17,850 in the mail. She had no reason to know or even to think to ask if the lab was in or out of network. She was just following her doctor's advice. Situations like hers and yours, Ms. Wilkes, are why we are here today. We are going to stop this, and it's why Chairman Pallone and I are moving forward with legislation to protect patients. I'm also pleased the President has taken on this issue. He was very serious about fixing surprise billing when we had a bipartisan event at the White House a couple weeks ago. And I'm encouraged our draft legislation lines up pretty well with the principles the President has set forth for a solution that could get his signature and into law. So we are moving forward on this. The draft before us today, the No Surprises Act, would take a number of steps to address surprise medical bills. First and foremost, this bill prohibits balance billing of patients and limits a patient's bill to their in-network cost-sharing amount in emergency situations. This is common sense when a patient has little or no control over who gives them life-saving care and can hardly be expected to make sure everyone is in network. For scheduled care like elective surgeries, patients must receive both verbal and written notice of any out-of-network providers who will be involved in their care. And if they don't consent to that notice, they cannot be balanced billed. Under our draft bill, providers who would currently balance bill the patient will instead be paid the patient's insurer at the median in-network rate for the service they provided in that geographic area. And by the way, my home state of Oregon passed legislation on surprise billing last year with a similar approach. And other states have passed their own models that create an arbitration process for providers and insurers to come to an agreement on a reasonable payment. And there are combinations of the two. Under our draft, these state laws, by the way, would remain in effect. And we know what many of the organizations represented in this room said when Oregon took up its law and what they've said since. And we know how it's playing out. There are a number of options on how to deal with the payments to providers, and I look forward to hearing from our panel on their experience with these different models. But in closing, I want to stress again, this is an issue that is important to us and to our constituents and to all consumers in America. I understand there are competing interests here today. I expect we'll have plenty of back and forth on the policies in this draft, and that's what we're seeking. Protecting patients, however, must be put at the forefront of this discussion, and I'll continue to work with my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to do just that. But we are going to resolve this once and for all. With that, I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The chair would like to remind members that pursuant to committee rules, all members' written statements